Utah 1885. The sinister secrets of the cursed Skinwalker Ranch triplets revealed at 20. Night draped over the wild Utah landscape, thick as fog and just as menacing. The sisters stood shoulder to shoulder under that vast blanket of stars, excitement mingling with an unshakable dread that clung to Cora's spine. She was the eldest, and she could feel the weight of their father's burdens pressing on her shoulders, like the weight of the world. "Don't go too far," she warned, even as Lila and Mae twirled in the moonlight, their laughter ringing like distant church bells. But the air felt different tonight, heavy with whispered tales of an ancient evilest skinwalker stirring somewhere in the wilderness, waiting. The scent of pine needles filled Cora's lungs, mixed with the acrid scent of fear. Nearby, Mr. Calhoun, with his easy smile and too smooth voice, spun stories that ensnared Lila and Mae. His shadow danced hungrily with the flickering campfire, and the tales of vengeful spirits ignited a fire of terror in them. Cora swallowed her unease, but every word tasted bitter. Didn't her father warn of men like him? Friendly faces hiding wicked hearts? As the trio wandered deeper into the woods, shadows became creatures that flitted in and out of view, each rustle of leaves a warning. The forest closed in around them, dark and oppressive. Cora glanced at her sisters, their faces alight with joy, and felt envy twist her gut. How could they be so carefree? Her intuition screamed that joy had a sinister edge. Dark shapes flickered in her periphery, gnawing at her sanity like a hungry beast in the night. "Cora." Lila giggled suddenly, darting ahead, chasing something unseen. "Did you hear that?" Lila's laughter echoed, a haunting sound swallowed whole by the forest. Mae stumbled, clinging to Cora's skirts, her heart racing. "What was that?" She whimpered, eyes wide. Cora's palms were cold and clammy, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. She wanted to call Lila back, but the words caught in her throat, tangled in fear of fear not easily explained. Then it happened. The laughter faded. The night swallowed her whole. "Lila?" Cora shouted, the word fierce desperation. Silence answered. Panic surged, and the woods seemed to close ranks, pressing down on them. A tangible entity waiting for a mistake, waiting for fear to become reality. "Where did she go?" Mae cried, trembling as shadows shifted like serpents. "Cora." Doubt crept into Cora's mind. Had Mr. Calhoun's tales been truth wrapped in fables? Every moment they lingered haunted by vicious memories, an unsettling gaze from a neighbor and words from their mother warning against the dark. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. A terrible screech shattered the stillness, cutting through the air like a knife. The sound sent chills down Cora's spine, lodging an ice block in her stomach. "Lila," she screamed. "Answer me." The only reward for her desperation was a flicker of darkness, shifting among the trees, vanishing just as fast as it appeared. "Cora, let us go back," Mae cried, her voice rising in panic. "We have to find her." Cora quaked, fear narrowing her vision, the very breath in her chest. They needed to face whatever malevolence lurked in the underbrush, not just for Lila but for the truth buried with their bloodline. With frantic determination, they pressed deeper into the suffocating dark, hearts pounding like an approaching storm. But with each step, the question loomed. What if the real monster hide among them, lurking in shadows familiar and treacherous? As terror wrapped around them, the night whispered of secrets better left buried. And Cora realized this was only the beginning. The darkness thickened, seemed alive, wrapping around the sisters like a shroud. Cora could barely hear Mae's breaths getting sharper, quicker, each inhale filled with fear. "We have to find her," Cora whispered back, forcing courage into her voice. The forest closed in tighter, branches like skeletal fingers reaching for them. as if warning them to turn back. "Look," Mae gasped, pointing toward a partial clearing. Shadows wove themselves between the trees, coiling, shifting in unnatural ways. In the feeble moonlight, Cora caught sight of something aflash, like a wild reflection, darting among the tall grass. "Lila!" Cora shouted again, but only the echo of her own voice returned. Panic threatened to consume her. The very trees seemed to absorb her screams, stealing her hope. They pressed on, hearts drumming in their chests, each thump a reminder of their growing desperation. The eerie screech roared in the distance, but this time, it was joined by a low growl, primal and threatening. Cora Mae's voice trembled, the word barely escaping her lips. "Shoo, listen," Cora urged, her heart pounding in her ears. The sinister laughter that had filled the night was gone. Instead, an unnatural stillness had settled over the woods, broken only by the faint sound of heavy breathing. It didn't belong to them. Cora Mae was practically whimpering. Cora grabbed her sister's hand, squeezing it tight. "We can't turn back now. We have to." Before she could finish, shadows surged, a darkness deeper than the night, and in the blink of an eye, their surroundings twisted. The trees seemed to warp and sway, as if reality itself was unspooling. The wild laughter of Lila echoed once more, shuddering the air, but it was different now, tainted with something sinister. "Lila?" Cora shouted again, inching forward. The laughter spiraled out of the shadows, playing a cruel game, leading them deeper down the path. Just ahead, a dim flickering light caught Cora's attention. A lantern, swinging gently, casting playful shadows that danced in the gloom. "There," she pointed, a glimmer of hope igniting in her chest. "It has to be her." But as they advanced, the light revealed a grotesque spectacle before them. The lantern hung from a twisted branch alongside scattered bones, cracked and stained with age. A cold wave of dread washed over Cora as she recognized the remnants of past horrors, tales whispered in the dark by their mother of threats that lingered in the woods. "Cora, I don't like this." Mae's eyes widened, trembling with fear. "Keep moving," Cora urged, her voice steadier than her racing heart. The flickering light danced again, and at its center stood a figure. Blackened and gnarled, it appeared to be wearing a cloak of shadows, its face obscured. They could feel its gaze piercing through the dark night cold, calculating. "Lila!" The scream tore from Cora's lips, desperation clawing at her throat. The figure shifted, revealing a glimpse of long hair cascading over an ashen face. "Cora! Mae! Help!" A voice twisted with fear. Lila's voice. It echoed like a death knell, resonating with an urgency that sent chills rippling through Cora's very bones. "Lila!" They dashed towards the figure as shadows swelled around an arm, extending ominously toward Lila, her essence flickering like a flame about to be snuffed out. Suddenly, the ground trembled, shaking beneath them. Screeches erupted from the woods, deep and throaty, a symphony of chaos that foreshadowed their impending doom. Cora stumbled, nearly losing her balance. Time blurred as fear and adrenaline pumped through her veins like molten fire. "If we don't get her now, we might lose her forever." Mae's voice broke with terror. Just as they took a step closer, the figure disintegrated into darkness, dragging Lila back with it, the lantern swinging wildly as it shattered, light flickering out. "No!" Cora screamed, reaching for shadows now swallowing her sister whole. In the suffocating dark, Cora stumbled into a cold void of despair. She was losing them both. As panic surged anew, the remnants of the woods whispered secrets too dark to confront. A chilling realization sinking in the curse had only just begun. And in that moment, with shadows feeding on regret and desperation, something sinister stirred in the trees, waiting to unfold its hidden malice. What horrors awaited them when the sun dawned? The world around Cora and Mae twisted in unforgiving darkness. As the echoes of their cries faded, dread seeped into their bones. The air grew thick, stinging with the scent of decay. Cora staggered, forcing her legs to move, dragging Mae along by sheer will. They could not fail. Not now. Where did she go? Mae whimpered, a tremor in her voice. Fear twisted her face into a mask of desperation. I don't know. Cora's panic bubbled over. But we have to find her. There was a wildness in her eyes, an echo of the girl she once was, before the forest had swallowed them whole. The forest sighed, a sound like whispered secrets. The shifting shadows enveloped them. Pulsing with life, they prowled like predators, breathing just above the threshold of their consciousness. Cora felt them pressing against her skin, invasive and cruel. Lila Mae gripped her sister's arm tighter, nails digging into flesh, making Cora wince. What if we're too late? No, we can't think like that. Cora shot back, her throat tightening. She wrestled with the urge to succumb to despair, yet it hovered hungrily, waiting for her to falter to end the suffocating gloom. Something flitted past them, quick, jerky movements that teased their senses. A glimmer in the distance caught Cora's eye, a brief silver flash that ignited sparks of hope. This way, she shouted, instinctively leading Mae toward the flicker. But as they pushed through the brush, what they uncovered sent a cold shiver through their spines. Bones. They littered the ground like macabre confetti, cracked and splintered, whispering unspeakable histories, telling tales that no one would dare to listen to. Cora's stomach churned as she stepped over a skull. Its hollow eyes seemed to watch them, crying out in silence. We shouldn't be here, we should turn back. Cora, fear dripped from Mae's words, dread weaving a cocoon around her. No. Cora pressed on, heart hammering, determination overriding her instincts. Lila needs us. The moment washed over her like a wave, a glimmer of resolve cutting through the fog of fear. Then, without warning, an unearthly wail split the night, a spine-chilling cry that echoed through the trees. Cora halted, the breath snagging in her throat. The sound morphed into laughter, haunting and manic, swirling through the darkness as if taunting them. Lila Mae gasped, her voice trembling. What was that? A figure emerged in the haze, vague and shadowy, dragging with it an unsettling gravity. Cora. My. The voice was Lila's, but it warped and twisted, stretching beyond recognition, filled with anguish. This wasn't the sister they loved. It was a mockery, a cruel shroud cloaking the innocence they remembered. With a swift motion, the figure darted deeper into the woods, eyes glowing like embers. Cora instinctively chased after it, heart racing as terror gripped her every step. Lila! Wait! She screamed, branches clawing at her skin as the trees closed ranks, threatening to cut her off from her sister. The forest pulsed with life, and shadows danced along with her frenetic energy, occasionally morphing into disturbing shapes, twisted faces silently screaming, pleading for release. The ground caved beneath her feet, crumbling like her resolve. As she stumbled, Mae clutched her collar, eyes wide with fear. Cora! Don't go! Please! But just as the words escaped her lips, the ground erupted, roots shot forth, snaring Cora's ankles in a vice-like grip. She fell, pain biting through her body, but before she could scream, the laughter returned louder, more mocking. It echoed around her, unraveling her sanity. Lila Mae's voice wafted through the darkness, teasing them, echoing from every angle. And then a whisper tickled the back of Cora's mind. Join us! Panic spiked through Cora. The trees leaned closer, their branches stretching like clawed hands, asking her to come closer to the abyss. There was no escape. With her heart racing and desperation clawing at her throat, she called out, Lila, where are you? The abyss responded only with eerie silence, as the darkness thickened further, swallowed them, whole in its suffocating embrace, and with that, a chilling thought settled in Cora's mind. What if they were never meant to find her? What if they had ventured too deep, and the darkness would never let them go? Cora's heart raced as the suffocating darkness pressed in around them. She tore her gaze from the twisted roots constricting her ankles and fought to regain her footing. My! We have to move! She shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony of phantom laughter that filled the air. The unnerving echoes of Lila's warped call still lingered in her mind, a haunting reminder of the sister they had lost, even if it felt more like the shell of her. Cora clawed at the ground, freeing her legs with desperate force. The forest reacted, the trees shivering as if alive with malevolence. She could almost hear them whispering, sharing dark secrets that sent chills skittering down her spine. Mae struggled to keep pace behind her, breathless. Cora! Stop! What if we're walking into a trap? What if this is what enough? Cora snapped, fear propelling her forward. She couldn't afford to feel doubt. Not now. The flicker of hope soared for Lila, pulling her onward through the shadows that twisted and turned, disorienting her sense of direction. They pressed deeper into the heart of the forest, where the trees gnarled and tangled, forming a natural maze. The ground squelched beneath their feet, sucking at their shoes, as if trying to pull them under. Lila! She screamed again, voice breaking against the suffocating silence that blanketed them like a thick fog. It happened all at once. A heavy thump echoed from the underbrush, a sound like a heartbeat, rhythmic and undeniable. Cora's stomach twisted as she and Mae exchanged wide-eyed glances of silent fear. What was that? Mae whispered, clutching at her sister's arm like a lifeline. Before Cora could reply, a figure stumbled from the shadows, ragged and wild. A flash of moonlight caught long, disheveled hair. It was Lila, pale and smudged with dirt, eyes wide with terror. But there was something else there, something darker. You shouldn't have come, she rasped, and the forest silenced around them, waiting for their reactions. Lila! Cora felt relief surge through her, but the wrongness of the moment clawed at her insides. We were scared. We thought, stop. You have to listen to me. Lila interrupted, her voice a frantic whisper. They're coming. They're always watching. Who? Mae dared to ask. Lila stepped closer, shadowed and jittery. The ones who wait, they want you to join them. A flicker of understanding passed between Cora and Mae. The mocking laughter, the twisted roots, it was all part of the trap that the forest laid out for them. Panic nipped at Cora's throat. No, we can't. With each desperate step, the ground dropped beneath their feet, a swirling black void waiting to swallow them whole. Cora wanted to yell, to scream, but her voice was lost in the darkness. Hold on to me, she cried, fiercely clutching Mae's wrist as they fought against the force that threatened to tear them apart. But just then, the laughter returned, sharper, echoing through the trees with manic delight. Join us, join us, join us! It morphed into a chant, a seductive lullaby pulling at their resolve. The shadows thickened until they were almost tangible, wrapping around them like a living shroud. A blinding flash lit the night, illuminating the forest just long enough for Cora to see faces horrible, twisted, mouths stretched in laughter. Get off me! Cora screamed, trying to shake off unseen hands gripping her shoulders, pulling her away. Cora! Lila reached for her, but the shadows rose in strength, swallowing her form. Help me! No! Cora shouted, the sound wedging itself in her throat. With every ounce of strength, she pulled Mae closer. She could see the fear etched on her sister's face, reflecting the fate that lay ahead. In that terrible moment, Cora realized the truth. They weren't merely lost. They were being hunted. The darkness hungered for their fear, their despair, and it delighted in their dismay. So she made a choice, one that could save Mae and herself, but not one without a heavy cost. We fight, she screamed, even as the shadows quivered, eager to consume them both. As the darkness threatened to envelop them, realization dawned. What if the secret to survival was buried deep within the madness of the forest itself? And what other horrors awaited them beyond the veil? Destiny loomed around them like a storm. Cora and Mae stood at the precipice, ready to confront what lay in the shadows. Cora felt the ground tremble beneath her feet, the very earth vibrating with the monstrous energy building around them. Mae clutched her arm tighter, her breath coming in quick pants, face pale as a sheet. Cora! Please, we need to run. But standing their ground against the encroaching darkness, Cora felt a flicker of defiance burning within. She peered into the veiling shadow, searching for any glimpse of Lila. Had she truly vanished into the void? Or was she lurking, just out of reach? The memory of her sister's terrified eyes sent renewed urgency crashing over her. We'll find her, Cora exclaimed, though doubt crept under her skin. The laughter rose again, a ghastly chorus echoing through the trees. "Join us, become one with us," it dripped with malice, words curling like smoke around her, demanding submission. The air grew thick and charged. Cora's heart pounded in her chest. She felt Mae quivering beside her. Suddenly, a flash bright and blinding. The trees illuminated, revealing figures twisting in the starlight, grinning with wicked joy. Cora's throat tightened. Were they people? Spirits? Something worse? Faceless shadows morphed, stretching beyond the limits of horror, living nightmares churning into grotesque forms. "Run!" Mae's voice cut through the chaos, snapping Cora from the spell of fear. Without thinking, they turned and dashed deeper into the suffocating dark. The trees closed in around them, a tightening noose threatening to drag them into the abyss. Cora's sisters were all she could think of, their bond unbroken, woven with love and desperation. They ran, breathless, pounding against the slick, unforgiving ground, but it felt like the forest itself moved with them, shifting, guiding them away from safety and deeper into peril. The laughter escalated, blending with the rustle of leaves, an ominous symphony. "Cora, look," Mae gasped, her eyes wide with terror. That a clearing loomed ahead, pulsating with a supernatural glow, drawing them in like moths to a flame. But as they stumbled into the light, a wave of dread washed over Cora. The ground beneath shifted again, and the laughter morphed into screams, breathless and agonized. Faces twisted in horror flickered in and out of sight, grasping hands reaching from dark forms just beyond the edge of the clearing. "We can't stay here," Cora warned. "We've got to move." The glow flickered as a shadow passed over it, stifling its brilliance and plunging them into semi-darkness again. The air turned electric, every hair on Cora's body standing on end as adrenaline surged. She felt the forest breathe behind her. The whispers morphed into inflections of her name, taunting her. "Cora, Cora," then a voice broke through, clear as a bell. "Help us." It was Lila, her tone a mix of pain and desperation. Cora's heart twisted. "Lila!" she screamed back, feeling the pull of her sister magnetizing her feet to the ground. "Over here. Down the path." Cora lunged forward. Mae hesitated, but with a desperate tug, Cora pulled her along. They raced into a narrow pathway, flanked by trees that seemed to bend and moan, boughs reaching out as though to catch them in their clutches. With every step, the voices escalated into a roar, fury and agony intertwined. Shadows clashed in front of them, shapes merging and splitting in a heart-stopping dance. It was a struggle just to breathe. "Cora, look out!" Mae yelled, just as a dark form shot toward them from the left. Cora pivoted, adrenaline coursing through her like a wildfire. She threw herself sideways, narrowly dodging the grasp of something cold and clammy. In all her years, Cora had never felt true terror like this. They sprinted with renewed fervor, the path ahead darkening ominously, branching out into an endless vortex of despair. Then a muffled sound. Cora turned again. "Stay with me," she pleaded. Mae was falling behind, breath ragged, eyes wide with unshed fear. "Don't look back," Mae gasped. But Cora felt something compel her to turn. What awaited them in the darkness? And in that split second, she caught a flicker, a figure outlined in the shadows. Was it Lila or another trick of the forest's imagination? Just then, the ground trembled violently, fracturing beneath them, swallowing all light. "Cora!" Mae's scream pierced the night. "My!" The ground beneath them crumbled, plunging them into a yawning abyss filled with whispers and shadows, pulling their screams away into the unknown. With their bond fracturing under the weight of madness, Cora was left questioning, was fighting the only way to survive? Or was there something darker that awaited them in the forest's sinister embrace? What choice would she make as the void stretched toward them, hungry for their souls? The freefall seemed endless. Cora felt weightless, suspended between light and shadow, her heart thudding violently in her chest. The whispers swelled around her, swirling like a tempest, a cacophony of sorrow and rage clawing at her mind. She reached for Mae, but the scream faded out, swallowed by the darkness. Then there was a jolt. A sudden impact knocked the breath from her lungs, and she rolled across damp earth, a sickening thud echoing in her ears. Blind panic gripped her. She shot upright, eyes wide, scanning her surroundings. Shadows pulsed ominously, forming the eerie silhouettes of the trees that had devoured their path. "My!" Cora shouted, dread clawing at her throat. There was no answer. The silence was suffocating, drowning out the deranged laughter that had chased them moments ago. Cora pushed herself to her feet, her legs quaking beneath her. She took a tentative step forward, her foot sinking slightly into the squishy ground, and a chill ran through her veins. There was something wrong with the earth itself. As she turned in a slow circle, she noticed the shadows shifted, twisting into shapes that twisted her stomach with a sense of dread. "My!" Her voice broke. She needed to find her. Shaking off the encroaching darkness, Cora moved forward, every step a struggle against the weight of invisible eyes watching her from the trees. "Help us," echoed again, the voice haunting and familiar. Hadn't she heard it before? Calling for help? It was disorienting, suffused with desperation. But was it Lila? Or was it a trap, baiting her further into the lair of horrors? Determined, Cora pressed on, her heart racing like a wild drum. The soft earth squelched beneath her as the trees began to narrow, closing in on her like grinning jaws, and the voices intensified their pleas, merging into choruses of despair. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness ahead. A woman, shrouded in shadows. Her outline flickered like a candle threatened by suffocating wind. Cora's breath caught. "Lila?" She dared to ask, the name falling from her lips as a fragile hope. "Cora." The figure lunged, arms outstretched. But as Cora stumbled closer, she realized the woman was not Lila, her features twisted grotesquely, mouth wide in a scream that pierced the night. Tentacles of darkness reached toward her from behind, pulling the apparition back into the void. "No," Cora blurted, instinctually stepping forward. With a roar, black tendrils lashed out, a savage desperation clawing at her. She barely escaped. The darkness raked the air where she just stood. Breathless, she faltered back, desperately seeking an exit. A rustle broke the air. It was Mae, staggering through the underbrush, face flushed and fearful, fear drilling deep into her eyes. "Cora." Mae's voice was ragged, torn. "I thought I lost you." Before they could embrace, the laughter returned. It scorned their reunion, echoed mockingly through the trees. "Together, together," taunted the spectral chorus. "Cora, listen." Mae gripped her arm tightly. "We can't trust anything here. We have to find a way out." They turned to flee, but not before the trees flexed, their branches twisting like fingers reaching out. Shadows became more animated, darting at the edges of their vision, whispering sinister secrets, promises and threats blending together. "Where do we go?" Cora gasped. "Toward the light." Mae pointed, but the light flickered, a false beacon in the deepening gloam, and shadows surged closer, pressing in from all sides. Cora felt the terror squeeze her heart as the warped voices merged into one, chanting their names like a twisted song, building in volume, beckoning her to stay, to become part of their nightmare. Cora, Mae, and just as they turned to run, a piercing wail echoed through the air. The ground quaked, and the reality around them began to crack and tremble, threatening to fracture under the weight of their fears. They needed to hurry, but could they survive what lay ahead? What awaited them in the distorted light that flickered like the last breath of hope? With shadows closing in, Cora realized they were more than just trapped. They were drawn into something ancient and unforgiving, something that wanted them to join it forever. The forest stirred, hungry and eager. The true horror was just beginning. They sprinted, the chaotic darkness chasing them like a pack of wolves. Each footfall turned the ground into a quagmire, slowing their momentum as if the earth itself resisted their escape. Cora glanced over her shoulder, and the sight made her blood run cold. The shadows blurred, morphing into swirling forms, grotesque visages grinning with malice. "Faster," Mae urged, her breath barely escaping her lips as panic surged. They pushed deeper into the thicket, branches scraping their skin, leaves tugging at their clothes like desperate hands. Ahead, The light pulsed. Felt alive, flickering in and out like a heartbeat. Was it real? An illusion designed to lure them? Is it safe? Cora shouted. Her voice cracking under the strain. Mae's eyes darted over the dense forest. We have to take the chance. It's better than this nightmare. They pressed forward, hope mingling with dread as they sprinted toward the flickering glow. The air grew heavy, electric with anticipation. As they neared the light, it expanded, unveiling a small clearing. Moonlight flooded the open space, illuminating twisted trees and bizarre stones arranged in a crude pattern. But something about the scene twisted Cora's stomach. The light pulsed and flickered, casting unsettling shadows that danced around the perimeter like wraiths, beckoning in silent invitation. Cora halted. Wait, she could feel the weight of unseen eyes boring into her, hunger palpable. I don't think we should now. Mae pulled Cora with fierce determination. They both raced inside the clearing, the deceptive light wrapping around them like a cocoon, but the shadows didn't retreat. If anything, they pressed closer. The laughter returned, louder, more discordant than before, blending into a monstrous symphony of derision. Stay, join us, it whispered, coiling around their minds. Unseen fingers tugged at the edges of their sanity, tearing at the frayed threads holding them together. Are we safe? Mae gasped, panting as they staggered to a stop, surrounded by the palpable tension of dread. I don't know, Cora gasped, but we can't stay here. The pulse of the light seemed too insistent, an allure masked in terror. Just then, a figure lurched from the trees, lurching into the clearing. It was a man, but his features were obscured by shadows that danced across his face. The spectral figure moved with an unnatural grace, gliding forward, whispering, "You don't belong here." His voice was liquid fear, both enthralling and chilling. Cora and Mae exchanged a glance, their fear mirrored in one another's eyes. What do you want? Cora shouted, fighting against the despair creeping into her heart. The shadows behind the figure began to expand, swirling ominously, growing darker and more sinister. You've been chosen, he proclaimed, laughter echoing around him, to feed the hunger. Cora's heart raced. We have to leave. She tugged Mae, but the ground beneath them shook. The trees rustled violently, and Cora could feel their roots creeping closer, trying to pull her into the earth. Leave? You think you can leave? The figure spread his arms, an obscene grin creeping onto his face. You're part of this now. You are part of the dark. They stepped back in horror as shadows emerged more forcefully, blurring the line between fear and reality. Cora felt her resolve crumble as a piercing scream echoed in the distance. Was it Lila? Or was it just another cruel trick? Cora, we can't let them take us. Mae grabbed her hand, a frantic plea sparking in her eyes. We fight. With a rush of adrenaline, they turned towards the darkness behind them and dashed into the eerie light, weaving through the pulsating shadows. It felt like diving into a maelstrom, harnessing their fear into sheer determination. But just as they broke free of the grasping tendrils, a blinding flash erupted from the heart of the darkness, and both girls slammed against a transparent barrier that had risen before them, trapping them inside the sinister dance of foreboding. The whispers intensified, now a cacophony of swirling cries. Forever, they chanted, wrapping around Cora, and Mae's choking breaths. We're not done fighting, Mae shouted defiantly, but even her fierce words felt flimsy against the encroaching dread. As the shadows pulsed with malignant intent, Cora felt the despair seep deeper. They were held captive, and something within her soul began to darken. What if they were meant to be there? The flickering light dimmed, and a new kind of darkness loomed ahead. What horrors lay within the barrier? And could they resist the urge to succumb to that dark hunger? Time felt suspended, the atmosphere thick with dread, as vision blurred and reality twisted, forging a new nightmare they might not survive. When dawn broke, would they still be themselves, or would they be lost within the shadows? Cora pressed her back against the cold, invisible barrier that imprisoned them, heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. The pulsing shadows surged closer, their whispers growing more insistent, their faces melting into grotesque forms that made her stomach churn. The cacophony soared, enveloping them in a suffocating blanket of despair. Cora. Mae's voice broke like glass, sharp and trembling. What do we do? The darkness pressed in on them, and in that moment, Cora felt a sinking sensation like lead filling her veins. We break the barrier, she shouted, the words feeling hollow against the oppressive gloom. If we don't fight back, we'll lose ourselves. The idea clawed at her mind, desperate and chaotic. They had to break free. But how? Shadows twisted and writhed, flaring at the edges of her vision, mocking her thoughts. You are never getting out, they taunted. A symphony of horror echoing relentlessly. Cora gritted her teeth, remembering stories of strength. We have to focus. Strength in numbers. She grabbed Mae's hand, squeezing it tightly. We're stronger together. We can't let them make us weak. Mae nodded, though her eyes betrayed uncertainty. What if they're right? What if we join them? No, Cora shot back, shaking her head. We are not joining anything. We're living this nightmare, and we will get out of it. The barrier shimmered as they pressed their bodies against it, their breath mingling in the chilly air. Instinct crashed over Cora, and with a wild shout, she threw her weight against the unseen wall, forcing Mae to do the same. Together, she screamed, even as the laughter broke around them like shattering glass. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the barrier. It pulsed, resonating with their frustration and fear, and for a moment, it felt like hope fanned with flickering wings. The shadows howled, "Join us!" But the girls pushed back harder, summoning the strength of their shared will. Keep pushing. We can't stop, Cora yelled, caught in a frenzy. The voices melded, claws of panic raking at their minds, but she refused to falter. A cracked sound split the air, resonating through the clearing. With that sound, the barrier rippled violently, as if it were alive and thrashing. Cora's heart raced, disbelief mixing with exhilaration. We can do this, she shouted again, each word fueled by an urgency to escape. In response, the shadows shrieked, launching tendrils at them, trying to ensnare, to drag them into a void of despair. Stay with us, forever, they roared, their sinister laughter tearing through the night air. Cora fought the urge to cover her ears, desperation overwhelming her. Mae, we have to let everything we have into this. In that moment, she focused on every memory, every glint of hope, and poured it into the barrier. The combined energy surged. Then, with a deafening snap, the barrier shattered like a broken mirror, the shards of darkness exploding in blinding light. Cora and Mae stumbled forward, propelled into an alien landscape. They crashed onto cold, damp ground, breathless and disoriented. Dale's howl echoed through the trees. Was he close? Or was this another cruel trick of the dark? Pushing themselves up from the cold earth, they scanned their surroundings. This was no clearing but a deep, dark forest crawling with shadows, more menacing now that they were outside the barrier. The laughter still echoed around them, a haunting reminder of their near capture. Cora, look, Mae pointed, eyes wide. Deep within the trees, an opening loomed, a tunnel of blackness deep enough to swallow the moonlight whole. From it emerged a soft glow, the same flickering light from before, tugging at Cora's attention like a moth to a flame. Cora felt herself drawn to it. Was it safe now, or merely a part of a larger trap? They had escaped one darkness, only to face another. We can't go, but the words died in her throat, replaced by a cold dread. Cora, we have to check it out, Mae said softly, her voice distant, as if under a spell. The darkness quivered around them, urging them toward that glimmering light. Would they dare venture in? Once again, with trepidation clawing at her guts, Cora took a step forward, but hesitation laced her every movement. What awaited them inside that beckoning maw? Something stirred in the shadows behind them, a whisper too faint to catch, but it lingered around her thoughts. You'll never be free. Heart hammering, Cora tried to steel herself. Come on, Mae. We have to go. But this time, we don't just move toward the light. We find a way to outsmart whatever lies ahead. As they stood at the threshold of uncertainty, they could only wonder what waited inside, And what price would they have to pay to escape the darkness once and for all? Cora squeezed Mae's hand tighter as they lingered on the cusp of the glowing tunnel. The shadows around them squirmed, their whispers rising in a maddening crescendo. "You can't escape," they hissed, filling the air with a chilling foreboding. Cora felt a tight knot in her stomach, the realization dawning that they had only traded one prison for another. "What if we're supposed to go in?" Mae's voice trembled, her gaze fixated on that unsettling light. It pulsed softly, a heartbeat echoing in the dark. "No, we can't trust it." Cora tugged Mae back. "Could be a bait, drawing us in just so they can spring again. We need to think there has to be an exit that isn't so inviting." The shadows writhed, and for a moment, Cora thought she saw their true forms, wispy tendrils reaching back into the depths as if urging her to take a fearsome leap. "They want us lost," she whispered, tremors coursing through her body. "We have to keep our wits about us." In the back of her mind, a faint whimper reverberated, a memory of Dale's earlier howl echoed within the cavern of her thoughts. Was he still out there, trapped somewhere in this nightmare? "We should try to find him," she said, determination rising like bile. "Cora, wait!" Mae cried out, pulling away from her grasp. "I have to know, please. Let us just take a peek." Her eyes were glazed with desperation, drifting toward that radiant glow as if it held the answers to all their fears. "Mae, don't. They'll lure you in." Cora stretched out her hand, but it felt futile. The static in the air crackled with hidden peril, and all she could do was watch as Mae took a hesitant step toward the entrance. "My!" Cora's shout broke, panic slicing through her heart. Mae turned, remorse flickering across her face. "I just want to see." Suddenly, a shriek echoed through the woods, one that was human Dale. His voice cracked like thunder, desperate against the tremors of the shadows. "Cora!" "My!" In that instant, everything shifted. The shadows howled, and the ground beneath them seemed to ripple as if restless. Cora lunged for Mae, snatching her wrist just as the darkness surged, sending a shockwave that threatened to pull them both into the light. "No, we need to stick together." In that chaotic moment, she felt the weight of the looming abyss behind them and the eerie glow in front. Shadows danced, shifting closer, hungry for the girl's hunger for answers. "You need to choose," they chanted, voices blending into a haunting harmony. "Join or walk alone." Cora's mind raced. "Join what? These malevolent creatures? We'll walk alone if that's what it takes," she shouted defiantly, her voice nearly drowned by the hellish laughter surrounding them. Mae hesitated, torn between the unnatural glow and the fear of losing Cora. "I can hear him too, Cora. I know he is close." "Then let us find him together now." Cora pulled Mae back, feeling the fight within her rekindle. Focusing on Dale's howl, she backed towards the darkness of the trees, refusing to look at the light again before they could retreat. The shadows shot forward, tendrils snaking around Mae, trying to yank her back. Cora felt her heart lurch. "My! Cora! I can't!" Mae's scream was cut off as she slipped from Cora's grasp, pulled toward that fatal glow. Every instinct screamed at Cora to run. Burning adrenaline shot through her veins. With another desperate grasp, she lunged towards the shadows, claws reaching for her friend. "No!" Then, with a flurry of motion, Cora found herself caught in a whirlwind of darkness and pain, the voices drowning out everything. The flickering light beckoned, pulsing in a maddening rhythm, and somewhere in the depths, she felt a pull like a surge of electricity surging through her. Would she have to choose between saving Mae and stepping into the depths of terror? As shadows encircled her, Cora gasped, feeling the essence of the darkness suffocating her. "My!" She cried out one last time, knowing that whatever was happening, she had to fight the darkness, and this time, she wouldn't let it win. And in that moment, as the light flickered and shadows surged, chilling realization set in. Light doesn't always mean safety. Cora stood at the precipice of despair, the weight of the darkness pressing down harder than ever. Shadows whispered taunts of surrender, their voices coiling in her mind, but something inside her flickered with a fiery resolve. "We will not lose each other," she screamed, heart pounding fiercely against her chest. She gazed through the veil of chaos, searching desperately for Mae, her sister lost to the tendrils of malevolence. Cora. Mae's voice flitted through the air, trembling but still filled with determination. Cora could almost see her, suspended between the haunting glow and the choking dark. "Help me." Just then, a surge of energy pulsed through Cora. It ignited her fear, fanning the flames of her resolve. Without thinking, she took a step back into the shadows, letting herself blend into the darkness they so desperately craved, adopting its persona: the anger, the fear, and the fight. She charged forward, casting everything aside, ready to reclaim her sister and the uncanny boundary between light and dark. The figures of the shadows grew frenzied, a wild, sinister dance mocking the chaos of her heart. "Join us! Embrace it!" they cackled, but Cora pressed on, racing against the tide of malevolent whispers and laughter. "I won't let them take you," she shouted, charging through the gauzy torment, the dark once again a shield as she reached desperately for Mae. "Cora, no!" Mae's voice was frantic, laced with dread. But Cora wasn't stopping. She felt the bond of sisterhood reach toward her, an invisible thread tethering them together, strong and unbreakable. With a sudden and ferocious cry, Cora barreled into what she felt was a nexus of their shared nightmare. She would not be consumed. "You can't have us," she proclaimed, her voice loud enough to drown out the surrounding chaos. The shadows recoiled for a moment, creating space where light began to flicker and swell. The air snarled and crackled around them, the barrier of darkness twisting and stretching as if in disbelief. It was as if the trees and dark figures howled in anguish at her defiance. But they were too late. Drawing on every memory, every shred of love and warmth that existed between her and Mae, Cora forced herself onward. "Together," she shouted, arms wide as if to embrace the very pain that conspired against them. Simultaneously, she felt what she had unleashed within her. Mae's hand caught hers just as the shadows snapped back, screeching in a bloody rage. "I'm here." Mae's grip was tight, and in that moment, strength surged between them. The darkness beneath them rippled, a roiling sea of shadows. But as their hands clasped, a brilliant light erupted like dawn breaking after a long night. The oppressive whispers quelled into silence, an eerie stillness descending. The combined essence of their love pushed back against the encroaching void, the shadows simmering and twisting, curling away from the blaze of their bond. "Keep going," Cora urged, pulling Mae forward. Together, they flowed toward the radiance, a beacon now blazing against the murky uncertainty. "Cora, the exit," Mae cried, her voice alive with renewed vigor as she pointed toward a shimmering entrance that carved through the shadows. The light became a cyclone around them, drawing them with an irresistible pull. Step by step, they moved steadily forward, wrapped in that incandescent energy. Just then, the shadows surged, their rage erupting into furious darkness, clawing for the sisters. "You cannot escape," echoed around them, the sinister inflate of voices shrieking in desperation. But the force that reached for them felt inherently weaker, dwarfed by the unstoppable bond of sisterhood. Cora and Mae reached the edge of that glowing passage, the illuminated threshold pulsating before them. "We can do this," Cora shouted, squeezing Mae's hand as they stepped through together. The moment they crossed the threshold, a blinding shockwave radiated from them, shattering the dark like glass, scattering the remnants of the vile creatures like ash on the wind. The forest erupted into blinding light. Cora shielded her eyes as the cursed shadows flared and faded. Everything was shrill and chaotic. But then, as silence settled around them, an overwhelming sensation of peace washed over. Panting heavily as the light receded, Cora turned, searching the glimmering expanse of forest. Are we free?" Mae whispered, her face pale but unbroken. Cora opened her mouth to reply when another voice called softly from the shadows behind them. "Sisters, you've returned." A figure stepped forward, a silhouette of familiar features. "Lila!" They rushed to one another, the embrace enveloping them like a warm embrace. "You're here," Cora cried, relief flooding her heart, tears blurring her vision. I'm safe now, Lila whispered hoarsely, clutching her sisters tightly. The three girls stood together, united and rooted, as dawn broke, light spilling across the horizon. They watched the sun gleaming through the trees, washing away the remnants of shadows, revealing the haunting beauty of the world and the promise of life beyond darkness. In that moment, Cora felt the burden on her heart lift, hope filling the corners once oppressed by dread. We did it, she breathed, a wave of warmth flooding through her. Yes, together, Mae echoed, and they laughed, a sound that echoed like a bell, pure and honest. As the sun rose higher, they lingered at the entrance of the woods, casting glances back at the memories woven into the trees, the fear, the darkness. But now, they stood only as survivors, with shadows receding into the past, a part of their history, forever tied to their shared ordeal. In unison, they turned forward and the horizon gleamed with the promise of possibilities, adventures waiting just beyond the trees, and with the bright warmth of morning surrounding them, they stepped into the world anew, two sisters with the strength to face anything, and Lila by their side. Now it's your turn to step into the light. If you loved this adventure and want more stories that twist and turn through the shadows and into the dawn, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to hit that bell, so you never miss a moment of these thrilling journeys. Go ahead, smash that like button, get in on the excitement and help the channel grow. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments with your thoughts, your reactions, and any wild theories about what comes next. This is the moment to show your support. Let us spread the word. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It's a call to arms, and together, you and I can keep the stories alive.